Aloha and welcome to the Nisei Veterans Memorial Center's Take Leadership Series. My name is Deidre Teagarden. I'm the Executive Director here at the Center, where our mission is to inspire people to find the hero within themselves through the legacy of our Nisei veterans. You can find more information about the Center on our website at nvmc.org. We are so thrilled to have all of you with us today with this talk story with World Series champion Kurt Suzuki being interviewed by Jordan Helle, sportscaster. Again, we're really excited to have all of you here and excited to have our two guests. We know this is going to be a great talk. You know, we started this Take Leadership Series to bring on leaders from across the state and across the nation, come on and talk about life and this new normal that we are collectively facing, all through the lens of the Nisei values. Take, of course, means bamboo in Japanese, known for its resilience and flexibility in difficult times. Before I introduce our speakers today, just wanted to give a couple little housekeeping items for those of you who are new to the talk. We love to get questions and we try to get to as many as possible throughout the talk. So feel free to type your questions in that little question and answer box that you see at the bottom left of your screen. Again, we will get to as many as possible. And we couldn't do this without the support of our amazing sponsors. So please help me thank HouseMart, Central Pacific Bank Foundation, VIP Food Service, Maui Health Systems, Service Rentals, Maui Sons and Daughters of the Nisei Veterans, Mahipono, Arazumi Brothers, Napa Auto Parts, Pasha Hawaii, Abbey Carpet of Maui, Mid-Pacific Pest Control, Servco Foundation, Maui Disposal, Pure Water Specialty Company, Abbey Carpet, Say Designs, TJ's Warehouse, Munikio Haraga, Hale Mahaolu, the Maui News, and Pulama Lanai. A lot of great local supporters for which we are very, very thankful. All right, now it gives me a great pleasure to welcome our star newscaster and interviewer today, Mr. Jordan Helle, who then in turn is going to introduce our speaker. Jordan was born and raised on Maui, growing up in Waikapu. He is a 2008 Baldwin High School graduate and also graduating from Occidental College in Los Angeles in 2012. He is the co-host of the Let's Talk Sports podcast with Kanoa Leahy. And since 2012, he has been broadcasting high school sports and the Maui Invitational College Basketball Tournament on Maui's ESPN Radio, KMVI 900, AM 900. And since 2013, he has been broadcasting high school and University of Hawaii sports for Oceanic, now Spectrum Television. So Jordan, welcome. Thanks so much for doing this. We're glad to see you.
No, thank you very much for having me. It's my pleasure.
Yeah. So I'm going to let you get right to it. We have a ton of guests on the call today, all the way from Japan as well. And I know they'd love to hear you and Kurt talk. So I'm going to turn it over to you.
Well, thank you, DJ. Yeah, well, let's introduce Kurt Suzuki, or as my grandma used to always call him, the Suzuki boy, right? And as in, that Warren and Kathleen's son. Every time she'd watch a news highlight or something like that on the local news and tell me about, the Suzuki boy, he hit another home run. So Kurt needs no introduction, but he is one of our proud sons of Maui and of Hawaii, a 2001 Baldwin graduate who also, just like me, went and attended college in Southern California at Cal State Fullerton. He's already played 14 seasons in Major League Baseball. Where's the time gone, right, Kurt? He's a 2014 American League All-Star when he was with the Minnesota Twins at the time. As we mentioned, played his college ball at Cal State Fullerton, winning the 2004 College World Series. And then, of course, the pinnacle, I think the crown jewel of his career so far, winning the 2019 World Series last fall with the Washington Nationals. He's got over 1,300 career hits during his major league career, over 133 home runs and 699 RBIs. All of those rank number one all time for Hawaii-born players. And he may still have a little bit left in the tank. We'll probably ask him about that as we go throughout this. But first of all, Kurt, how are you doing, man? It's good to see you once again, even though it's over the Zoom thing.
Yeah, it's good. I'm getting used to this Zoom thing with all my kids' schooling and virtual learning and all that fun stuff. So I'm kind of getting to be like a pro on this thing. But no, it's good. I'm here in Southern California. I'm with my family. My kids are here. They're healthy. Everybody's healthy, happy. We're spending a lot of family time together. So it's great. It's such a long season, and then you come home and you get to spend quality family time. That doesn't get old, that's for sure.
Yeah, your family got to see a bit more of you this season just because of the delay to the start of everything with the pandemic going on. Have they gotten sick of you at any point? I mean, you're around more than they're used to.
I know it's been nice. I've been getting more chores than I used to, but it's we try to take the positives right out of everything that's been going on right now, and one of the positives is we're together as a family where we try to cram everything in, in 3 months in the off season because we know I got to leave again. So this year we were spread out and we were together, I think the whole time besides the 6 weeks of spring training. So, my kids and my wife and, we all got to spend time together. So we're trying to look at the positives here on this one. So it's been great.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Making your family's home now in Southern California. When was the last time you got to come back home to Maui?
It was, well, I think it was this past January we did the clinic.
Mm-hmm.
And, this year we're not doing it just with the COVID and all these kind of things going on. There's a lot more important things to do. But, I miss it. I miss coming home. And, there's a lot of restrictions and all that stuff in Hawaii, rightfully so. But, I want to come home. And, when the time comes and we get through this, I'll definitely make it home. I haven't seen my parents in forever. It seems like they haven't seen me and the grandkids, I think longer than they'd like. So, whenever I get that chance, I'll zoom right home and we'll have a good time.
Yeah, and I got to imagine this is probably the first season they didn't get a chance to come up and watch you play, really. Talk to us a little bit about this past season. It was 60-game Major League Baseball season, not the usual 162-game marathon. You guys didn't really get going until summertime and kind of was a mad dash to get into the postseason. Your second year back with the Nationals, as mentioned, your 14th overall season. But what was it like playing? I mean, there's empty stadiums. You guys are going through all the protocols, the testing, and everything like that. But just give us a sense of what this season was like.
And it was definitely different. It was odd. There was a lot of things that we weren't used to. All the protocols that we had to follow in the clubhouse, away from the ballpark. Things that in baseball you get very much. You're an athlete and you play sports, very routine oriented. So when it throws off the routine, it's who can adjust and who can adapt. And obviously we as the Nationals we didn't do as well as we'd liked, although it seemed like we were starting to pick it up right when the season was ending, kind of like when we were last year. But there's no excuses. It was a weird season. We didn't get off on a good start, and it hurt us this year. But it was just different. Not to take anything away from the Dodgers and the teams that did really well this year. Because everybody had the same playing conditions, but it was weird. It didn't really feel like a baseball season. It wasn't baseball with 40,000 fans yelling at you, cheering you on, the adrenaline. It was different.
Yeah, how weird was that? Just having the empty stadiums. I mean, you get so much of an added boost by hearing the home fans or going on the road and getting yelled at, even something like that. But I mean, it's empty. Everybody can hear everybody. What was it like playing there?
It was like a minor league instructional league game. It was weird. I mean, with the games that I weren't playing, they had white noise playing over the inner or the loudspeakers to make it sound like fans were in the stadium, and it was just making it worse. I was sitting there on the bench and there's no fans. You hear the white noise, you kind of doze off a little bit, but it was definitely odd. I think in some aspects it helps the younger players because they don't get as much anxiety with all the people watching them and the big stage and things like that. So in that aspect it was a plus. But for us guys that have been around that kind of feed off of that on a Tuesday night, you feed off the 30,000 fans there. It was different.
Yeah, and of course, obviously coming off of the big World Series win, it would have been really nice to kind of get a chance to celebrate in front of your home fans. Let's kind of go back. Let's go back to your beginnings, your origins, if you will, back in Wailuku. What was it? What was life like growing up on Maui as a kid, coming up, in the '90s, and I would imagine playing a lot of different sports growing up.
Yeah, it was very simple. It was the beach, it was school, it was baseball, soccer, basketball. I swam a little bit. Um, rollerbladed. I mean, played tennis, golf a little bit. I did it all, and it was a very simple life, and I was very blessed to be raised and born and raised in Wailuku, and I had parents that took care of me and really embraced the fact that they wanted me out there playing all kinds of sports. They wanted me to have fun, the sacrifices they had to make. So it was a real cool experience. I mean, people are always like, "Oh, you live in paradise," and sometimes I gotta really think in their shoes, thinking, yeah, it is, because growing up here, sometimes you take it for granted, and now my home base is in Southern California. I do miss it, and it's wonderful. It's awesome.
When did you kind of know baseball was your thing? That that maybe that was because you mentioned all the different sports you played growing up. Like a lot of kids here. At some point, I would imagine baseball took a little bit more of a serious approach. At what point was that for you growing up?
Yeah, I played, like I said, I played different sports, basketball, soccer and stuff, and I realized that I wasn't tall enough to play basketball. I realized that I didn't like to run a lot, so soccer was out, and baseball was something, actually, it was my least favorite sport growing up, and um, I really didn't care for it much. I did it because I wanted to be around my friends, but as I got older, it kind of grew, and I think the fact of I wanted to play college baseball really kind of influenced that too. Is I wanted to extend my playing career through college and be able to play in college and stuff like that. So I think probably my junior year in high school is when I stopped playing every sport and I focused on baseball. And up until then I played everything. But yeah, my junior year was when I was like, okay, I think now it's time to get serious. I decided baseball was the way to go, and I'm gonna put everything I got into it.
Good decision. It's obviously worked out pretty well since then. One of the big values of the Nisei Veterans Memorial Center is sort of leading by example. Who set that example for you as a kid growing up, as somebody that started pursuing this a little more seriously? Who were some of those folks that maybe set the example for you?
Well, mentioning that, Anissa, my grandparents, obviously, were a big part of my life. I think, as being in California now and being off the island, you kind of realize, a lot of, the family aspect is not as huge as it is in Hawaii, where Hawaii is very family oriented. So my grandparents were a huge part of my life. I saw them pretty much 5 days a week, if not more. So watching, they worked hard, what they sacrificed. They didn't have a lot, growing up, and they had to work extremely hard for everything they got, and being able to raise the kids, and obviously my mom and dad, and how hard they worked. And whenever it was a all-star tournament in Oahu, they made sacrifices and took off work to come and chaperone. And going to California for a regional tournament, they sacrificed and paid, and allowed me to pursue it, because they wanted to provide for me. So I think that having that, and now being in their shoes, being older, having kids of my own, I want to do everything I can for them. Where if my daughter wants to ride horses, I take her for lessons, or if my son wants to play baseball, or things like soccer. You try to make sacrifices, because when I was growing up, sacrifices were made. So it's a pretty cool thing that it's coming around full circle, and now I'm able to learn from my grandparents and parents to pass it on to my kids, and hopefully some of my kids will pass it on to their kids, and we keep the tradition going.
No, it's awesome stuff. So after you finish up at Baldwin in 2001, you you make the trek to Southern California. You end up at Cal State Fullerton to go ahead and continue your baseball career. What was that like, moving away from home? You're kind of on your own. What was that first experience like? And why was it Cal State Fullerton? How'd you end up with the Titans?
So, well, we did my parents put together a list, or I put together a list with my mom and dad, and they said, okay, what schools do you want to go to? And of course, I go, okay, USA Today, let's look at the paper. Who's the best baseball team? And from looking at that, I was like, okay, I got to stay on the West Coast, though, because I can't go that far. So I looked in California, Arizona. I looked at Arizona, Loyola Marymount, Pepperdine. Those were the three schools that we actually came up. And my mom, actually, funny story, she says, why don't you go look at Fullerton right there? I was like, no, Mom, I don't want to do that. And she's like, just go, you never know. Just go there. They were good, at the time, but I was like, no, I really had my heart set on Pepperdine, Arizona, or Loyola. And so I said, okay. So I went there, and that turned out, long story short, that turned out to be my favorite coach that I met with, the campus and everything. And, the rest was history. I went to Fullerton, but, it was hard leaving Hawaii. I know that, I was very sad when I had to leave my friends. A lot of my friends stayed home, went to local schools, UH and stuff like that. And it was tough, I was sad, but I was excited at the same time, if that makes sense, where, I was very sad to leave my friends, my family, my hometown, but I was excited to start my new chapter and to be away, to try to live on my own and see what it was like. And, I know my mom, my mom was super sad when she had to leave me my freshman year, when I got all settled in. And, I think it finally hit her, like, he's off on his own now. And it was pretty cool. It was a cool experience because I got to, now I can say it because, I am where I am today, but, I was like, oh, my parents aren't there telling me to do my homework, or, telling me I got to sleep at 9 o'clock, because I got to wake up early. I had to take responsibility, which, I thought that it was actually cool at the same time.
Yeah, you get to learn pretty quickly, right? Having a little bit of that independence. You end up winning the College World Series in 2004, a big year for you. The same year you got drafted as well. You had the go-ahead and eventual game-winning RBI in the seventh inning of that championship to clinch the College World Series title. Kurt also ended up winning the Johnny Bench Award that year as the nation's best catcher, the Brooks Wallace Award, which at the time was awarded to the nation's most outstanding player overall. What do you remember? What were some of your fondest memories playing at the collegiate level and obviously going on and winning the College World Series in Omaha? What's that like?
It was probably, winning the World Series, obviously the pinnacle, but winning the College World Series was probably my favorite, most memorable moment of my career, where, when you're in college, you're with each other so much, and you become like a family. You're 3 years, you're there, and you become really close. You hang out, you party with each other, and you do all the college things, that guys do. And it was such a cool experience. Some of my best friends are still, were my teammates, at Fullerton, that I still talk to today. It was such a cool experience. Just thinking I came from Maui and now I'm playing in the College World Series, and winning the College World Series, the Johnny Bench Award, the Brooks Wallace Award, and thinking, how did I get there? I had great coaches, I had great friends, I had great family, Coach Ishida, Coach Viella, all the coaches that I had at Baldwin High School that really helped me, throughout my career, and I'm like, man, it was such a cool thing where everybody had a part that helped me get to where I was today. And just thinking about not just from college, but now in my career, I'm like, wow, I started here, and then I had this coach, and then I had this coach, and made these friends, and to this day, when I go back home to do the clinic and all that things, they're still there, and we're still working together, helping the kids and giving back to the community, and we're still great friends and family friends, and it's awesome.
Yeah, it really is, and I definitely want to get to the clinic you put on, the Opono Clinic, and some of your foundational work as well. But kind of finishing on your baseball journey here, we mentioned you get drafted by the A's that same year. You guys go ahead and win the College World Series title. You make your major league debut a few years later, 2007. What do you remember of that moment when you got the call that you were heading up to the big show And what was that moment like as you sort of reflect back on all the things that it took to get there?
Yeah, it was pretty neat. Honestly, I was at that point where I wasn't having a bad year. I was hitting 280, and hit some home runs, and playing the PCL. And I'm thinking, man, am I ever gonna get to the big leagues? And I'm thinking, I don't know if I'm ever gonna get there. And I get to the field, and they do this whole spiel and this whole skit, the way they call me up to the big leagues, and it was really cool, and I'll never forget it. But when they told me that, I didn't believe it, and I was like, no way! Like, I almost cried. It was amazing, all the hard work, and you get to that point, and you're like, wow, it's amazing. And I remember calling my wife and my parents, and nobody believed me at first. They're like, what? They're like, no, you're not. You're lying. And literally nobody believed me. And then it finally hit them, and I remember, Renee was screaming, and then my mom and dad, I think they were working in the yard like they always do, and they started screaming. And I know they took the red eye, I think, to Houston, that's where my first, trip was to Houston. And I remember them took the red eye there with my wife, and they met up in Houston, and they were there, and I made my debut there in Houston, and got my first hit there in Houston, and all that kind of things. And it was such a cool culmination. And I said, I never want to go back to the minor leagues. I'll do everything I can to stay here, and here we are today.
It's worked out nicely since then. I didn't realize sort of the symmetry and how big of a town Houston is for you. That's where you made your debut. That's where you got your first hit, and that's where you guys won the World Series just last year. So yeah, I didn't realize H-Town had such a big role in your life there.
Yeah, I had no idea until you just brought it up. That's pretty cool.
It's one of those funny things. So as you sort of establish yourself and gain an everyday role, work your way into the lineup as well as an everyday player, was there a moment where you kind of realized, hey, I'm here, I've made it, I'm in the big leagues to stay?
Yeah, I think it was probably after my first half season when I got called up. I started and I played, and I wasn't my best performance, and obviously as a rookie, I held my own. I had my first home runs. I had some walk-off home runs and things like that. But it was probably my first year in 2008 when I had a great coach. You guys might know him. Don Wakamatsu was my bench coach, and he ended up becoming my catching coach. And he really helped me along the way. And it was that I was like, he kind of instilled that attitude in me, and that you're good enough, and really helped me progress into the catcher I am today. And it was that time in 08, I was like, you know what? I said, I think I got this. I think I can keep getting better. I'm kind of learning on the fly. I'm learning from great veterans, along the way that I got to play with, and this is it. I think I got it.
Yeah, Don Wakamatsu ended up managing the Mariners for a time during his career. So now that you've been in the league 14 years, so you get some of the old man questions, if you will. At what point did you start feeling like you were the veteran, like you were the guy that could kind of tell other dudes what to do and things like that? Was there a point where you're like, oh yeah, I'm kind of one of the older guys now?
I really, that's kind of not my style to be like that. I'm more of a not quiet leader, but like I just try to lead by example. I work hard. I try to have everybody, follow. Instead of me trying to tell people, I try to lead by example, because if they see you doing it instead of talking about it, then they'll follow, and things like that. And that's kind of how I've always been. But probably when I reached that 10-year mark, and then I was kind of like a little bit more of a, I'd give people a hard time more, and these young kids that come up and they look at me, and I'm like, gosh, these kids are 20 years old, and I'm 30 in my 30s, and they're up in the big leagues at 20. And it's probably when I got to 10 years, I started, ribbing guys a little bit more and things like that. But, it's great. It's part of the gig. I got it really, hard when I was coming up, and, it's all in the fun, it's that camaraderie and all that kind of stuff.
You mentioned Don Wakamatsu as one of the key figures throughout your professional development. Are there other folks that you've gotten close to that you have tight relationships with, folks within the game, or the other players, coaches, scouts, even, but anybody that you've sort of gotten pretty tight with throughout your time in baseball?
Yeah, my first hitting coach when I was in Oakland, his name is Ty Van Berkeley. He's the hitting coach for the Indians. He's been there with Francona for, I think, 6 years. I became really close with him. Um, I still talk to like the Torrey Hunter. I played with Torrey in Minnesota. I still text him every once in a while. Mark Kotze was a big, influence in my career. Jason Kendall, he was a huge influence in my career. Guys like that, and it's pretty cool to see the guys that I played with. It's pretty amazing. Who I played with and the guys that I got to learn from, and all these kind of things, and I just I'm in awe actually, because a lot of these guys that I played with are going to go to the Hall of Fame, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah, without a doubt, and it's been an incredible journey with a lot of support from your family over the years. You've already touched a bit on that, but I did want to ask you a little bit about your family. Of course, you mentioned your wife Renee. You have 3 beautiful children. Your daughter Malia, who's it's almost 10, I think, at this point. 9 years old. It's crazy. The kid's growing up so fast. Kai's, I think, 6 years old. Elijah 4 now. I look at your story, and it's kind of a familiar one, I would say, and maybe not necessarily the route to professional sports, but I think for a lot of, next generation, whether it's Yonsei or Gosei families, they're young professionals who grew up in Hawaii have moved and settled on the mainland to pursue a career, and take a bit of what they've been raised with at home and kind of translating that to raising their own families and living on the mainland. What kind of values did you take from home as you now have found yourself located on the mainland and as you raise your kids?
Well, the one thing that we always tell our kids, I know to this day, my parents always tell me, have fun. That the main thing is have fun. We're in the World Series and, game 1, and, I'm nervous and I'm like, oh my gosh, the World Series. And they're like, yeah, just go out, make sure you have fun today. And I'm just like, every time it was have fun. I was like, well, just have fun out there and whatever happens, happens. And I'm like, we're playing game 1 of the World Series, like have fun. Yeah, but I'm nervous, I'm really nervous. But, that was the one thing. So I tell my kids all the time, I said, hey, it's not about winning and losing. You go out there, you have fun, you make friends, that's the bottom line, and that's one of the values that my parents instilled in me. And, growing up too, it's hard work. You get everything that you deserve. If you don't work hard and you don't deserve something and you don't get it, then you got nobody to blame but yourself. And that's how I was brought up. I still remember to this day, my parents, are always like, hey, brah, you don't study hard in school and you don't work hard and get good grades, you're not playing. And I still remember it's like, I wasn't a big fan of school, but I knew that I had to do school because, who makes it, and plays professional, it's very far. It's like a dream, really. And you can't bank on, I'm going to be a professional athlete because, that's a hard thing a big risk to take. And so they're always instilling, study hard, you got to study hard. It's just the main thing, get good grades. Coach Ishido and Coach Viella were that way too. You had good grades and, that's when you're going to play. But, I try to tell my kids that is you got to study hard. You got to study hard. You got to do that. And then the last was like just respect. As growing up, in the Japanese culture, respect, was a huge part of my upbringing. You respect, aunties, uncles. You respect everybody. Everybody else, especially the elder people. You give them respect. It doesn't matter who they are, you respect them. And I try to tell that to my kids. And the big thing is, in school and all this kind of things, it's I want to make sure they respect their teacher, they respect their peers and all these kind of things because, my parents, you respect kids, that's how you get respect. If you don't respect somebody, they're not going to respect you. So, I really try to harp on those things for my kids. And, that's something that I feel like was a very important part of my life. And if I can take it up here and instill it in my kids' life, then hopefully it'll end up being good.
Yeah, without a doubt. And I, another one of those Nisei values being selfless for the greater good, for your community, for your neighbor. And you guys do some much terrific work, really, with the Kurt Suzuki Family Foundation. Supporting scientific research of chronic illnesses, encouraging folks to live a healthy lifestyle. One thing I always wanted to ask you, I never did, but it's the Kurt Suzuki Family Foundation. And nothing wrong, of course, with foundations that just have, it's not the Jordan Helle Foundation or something like that. But why family? Why is family included in the foundation's name?
Well, obviously, growing up in Hawaii, family is very important, and that's something that I always value is family. And my parents always say that too. Is like, hey, my dad and my mom is like, hey, son, you got to remember, family is the most important thing. Whatever happens, your family is the most important thing. I don't care what it is. If you gotta, sacrifice certain things in your life, your family, and you take care of your family. That's number one, and that's how they raised me. Was my family was number one. So, when we do something like this, I want to create this family feel where, my family, everybody's involved in this. It's just not me. It's just not a Kurt Suzuki thing. It's our family. The family from my wife, who I know. Sometimes the wives get a bad stigma, like, oh, they're just housewives, and I tell you what, I'd rather be playing baseball than being a house dad. That's for sure. The amount of stress, the work, especially my wife, she puts so much effort into the kids and making sure everything's perfect for them, and she's really like the rock of the family, and I think that incorporating the whole family aspect of that, and we're all in this together kind of thing, and then our kids will see that they see the whole family, and like everybody's involved, everybody's helping. It creates a better feeling for what we're trying to do.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about what the foundation's been able to accomplish here over the years.
Yeah, we've done a lot of work. I just like to first off is everything that we raise, all the money we raise, it always stays in Hawaii. That's the one important thing that I wanted to do, is I wanted to make sure when we're doing this, everything stays in Hawaii. This is where I grew up. This is the state. This is where I want my money to be put to use and help the state that I grew up in, the community that I grew up in, that helped me along the way. And I think for me, giving back. So, we do a lot of work with Kapiolani Medical Center. We do a lot of work for the Children's Hospital, over the Children's Department over there. A lot of cancer things. We've donated money to the Kapiolani Children's Hospital. We've donated like special, I guess, kind of tradition things where we donated a bell. So every cancer patient that they help guide and to nurture back to good health, they ring the bell. That's kind of the signal of, hey, I beat cancer. I'm leaving. I want to let everybody know. And I think they had to repair it once because some kid was so happy they rang the bell and it broke. So I think that's the type of things that's really cool, and that's kind of one of the things that we do is having kids of our own now, and kind of realizing how special your kids are to you when you're going through something like that. Is a very, very tough thing, and so being able to help families like this, help them, along their journey, is important.
Yeah, and finding that courage through a lot of that adversity, and especially the work you do with the children, is really terrific and awesome. One of your main fundraisers that you do and weren't able to do this year, but you have the Taste of Hawaii Gala in Wailea. You've partnered with Alan Wong over the years. Why a cooking event? What was it behind sort of having a cooking event as one of your fundraisers?
That's kind of like my secret hobby is cooking. I love cooking.
Okay.
I can remember, yeah, ever since I was a little kid, my parents you'd make dinner and I'd be in the kitchen. I'd be like helping them cook, and I wanted to be in the mix and all these kind of things. And to this day, I'm like the guy that cooks in our family. I love cooking. I'll make whatever, and I just love it. That's kind of like my zen, to everything going on. I love cooking, so I figured, hey, what not to, Alan actually reached out to us first and said, hey, you want to do something together? And I was like, wow, this is fate. I love cooking. World-renowned Alan Wong asked me if you want to do an event. I was like, of course, and it was a very private family social event. raised a lot of money for a lot of good cause, and it just felt very local style. It wasn't a big ballroom. It was outdoors, at the Four Seasons, and it was very intimate, and a lot of people knew each other. It was very cool.
So what's your go-to dish? What is the Kurt Suzuki specialty that you can
Oh
put together?
man, I make a good beef stew. I got it from my dad. My
Ooh.
dad's recipe, a beef stew. I do a good beef stew, and I've actually a spaghetti sauce, a little bolognese
Oh,
sauce.
okay.
I do a bolognese sauce that's super good. But then you always got the staples. I barbecue and make some shoyu chicken, and then my dad showed me how to make the potato macaroni salad and rice, and throw some natto on there, and oh,
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 okay.
crush.
Okay. Yeah, that is
All the
the good
Japanese
stuff. So
people out there,
does
I
he
love that.
is your dad's beef stew recipe, does it have like a little secret something or something in there? Because those paella guys, they do it a little differently. I remember my Uncle Ricky always saying, "Hey, Uncle Warren, the paella guys, they eat their Simon with the yellow hot dog mustard, not the hot mustard with shoyu, but the yellow hot dog mustard, which nobody else does that, but the paella guys do it, I guess, apparently. So does the beef stew have a little something in it?
You know what I used to do in the beef stew too is I put a little bit of like a brown sugar or honey in there because it's very tomato. It gives a little bit of sweetness, and I do that with my spaghetti too. And it's for some reason that thing is killer. Oh, with some potato salad on the side and rice, and it's winners for sure.
There you go, the multi-talented Kurt Suzuki. The other big event that you guys usually do in January, the All Pono Clinic. You mentioned some of your old Baldwin coaches. They're still heavily involved. You got kids from all over the island, all over the county, really. I know you make it a point to fly over kids from Molokai and Lanai as well. But what do you enjoy most about putting on that clinic every year at the stadium?
Giving back to the kids. I mean, watching the kids go around, have fun. I love seeing that. I think when I was growing up, there was nothing like that around. And that was kind of my first thing that I thought of, like, hey, I want to do a baseball clinic. It'd be really cool for the kids. I never got to experience something like that. To have these kids come out, we got this awesome raffle giveaway that as a kid you love these raffle things. You get to win a prize, and we got autographed stuff. We got, headphones, bags, shirts. I mean, we got all kinds of memorabilia stuff that these kids can win, and then each get a gift bag, and just to see the smiles on their face, it's really neat, And then also having my best friends, helping out, the coaches, being partnered with Coach Viela Antimiley and their family foundation, the Alpono Family Foundation. They're very, very close family friends to ours that we do a lot of things together, and to be able to do things like that, and that just kind of shows you like the family knit. Everybody's trying to help each other, and that's the Hawaii way. Everybody's helping each other. Everybody wants to take the shirt off their back to help you. They do it, and I think that's a really cool thing. And I think the kids, besides learning great baseball skills from the coaches and the players that I played and grew up with, they get to see these type of things, and maybe one day, if we inspire one kid to be like, I want to do that, and then he goes off and does that, for me that's a win. Out of all the hundreds of kids that participate in the clinic, if there's one kid that makes it and does it and comes back and gives back, I feel really good about it.
Yeah, and of course, a lot of those kids looking up to you, and everybody was so proud last October when you and the Washington Nationals go ahead and win that World Series. What was that moment like? I mean, you were in your 13th year in Major League Baseball. You had been to the playoffs a few times prior at a few different stops, right? Washington the first time around, Atlanta as well. But getting to the peak, winning it all, what was that moment like?
Oh, it was surreal. It really was. I thought it would never happen. Honestly, I'm being honest. I thought it would. I was like, man, I'd never, get to the World Series. I'll never win a World Series. And I remember sitting there in Game 7. It started off as the hardest day probably of my baseball career. I'm in the lineup, and then I just said I can't do it. I went to Davey and I said, Davey, it's not fair for the team for me to go out there and do something that's not going to help the team. So it started off that way, and then I'm sitting there and not being able to do anything, and I'm just watching, and it's like I'm anxious, I'm nervous, and I'm sitting there when we were losing 2-0 in the 6th inning, and I'm going, man, if we don't win this, I'll never get back here. You know how hard it is, how long it took to get here, and then we ended up scoring these runs, and I just lost it. I was just like, just screaming. It was such a cool experience, and something that I'll never forget, and it really was amazing.
Yeah, you played a huge role the first half of that series. The hip injury kind of held you out there at the end, as you were alluding to. But game two, you hit that seventh inning home run, the go ahead home run. Verlander, if I'm remembering correctly, in that packed stadium. What is that like? You've hit home runs before, but to hit a go ahead home run in the seventh inning of a World Series game, just kind of talk us through that surreal moment.
Yeah, it was awesome. I mean, I think what made it even more awesome if I was like 2 for 20 in the whole playoffs. I think that's what made it even more awesome. But for some reason, I mean, I've hit Verlander my whole career. I've always hit him, and I've hit him well. Going into that game, I got a base hit my first at bat. I just missed a homer my second at bat, and then we come to the seventh inning. Both pitchers are cruising, through the game, and I get a hit. And I'm like, hey, I'm just gonna go for it right here and see what happens. And I got a good pitch to hit, and I hit it out. And I remember running around the bases, and I'm saying, I just hit a homer in the World Series. I was like, you got to be kidding me! And it was 2-2, and it was break the tie. And I was like, oh, we better win this game. We better. And it was just floating around the bases. It was awesome. It was such a good feeling, and it was a really neat moment.
Yeah, I remember watching the game with a group of folks and some of the friends and some of our old friends and the Royce Fukurokus, and you probably could hear in Houston the yells that were coming out of Maui when that home run went through. Of course, you guys are playing the Astros, so I got to ask. That we know the whole cheating scandal. It's well reported. With the sign stealing endeavors, and so you're a catcher. You're in charge of calling pitches for your squad, and that's what they were trying to siphon off and decipher. Was it a little extra challenging against the Astros and trying to make sure that you guys signals weren't being stolen and they weren't getting an advantage off of your pitchers?
Yeah, we do that when we get to the playoffs. Everything becomes heightened a little bit more. Our signs become more complicated. We're a lot more conscious of is somebody stealing it? Is somebody this? And we try to make our signs very complicated. And then when we got to that, before we played the Astros, we had guys calling us, from the Yankees and the Dodgers and all these teams that said, hey, you guys better be careful. These guys, we had a guy that played for Houston, for a couple of years, a pitcher that played for Houston that was on our team with Washington that ended up getting released during the year. And he called us and said, you guys think they don't have your signs? They got them. They got every single sign. So we're like, oh man, it was probably the most stressful, complicated experience of my big league career, and it was in the World Series, was trying to get these signs. And they're whistling, they're banging things, and we're like listening to them, and I was like, I can hear the whistling, like what's going on, but you don't know if it's coming from above the dugout or in the dugout. It's so loud, I remember the bases were loaded and Strauss was pitching in game 2, and it was so loud that I said, this might actually work because they can't hear the whistling because it's so loud in here. And he ended up striking out, the hitter to end the inning. And I said, that might have helped us because it was so loud, but yeah, it's here nor there, there's, everybody has their own opinions and all this kind of things and whatnot, but they got their punishment, and it's time to move on.
Yeah, and it's just so fascinating, right? All that goes into a baseball game and all the little give and take as you prepare to face these guys. Coming off of that World Series win, you head into this past season, which of course was the final year of your 2-year contract there in Washington. It was sort of a weird year. At the beginning of this conversation we talked about, but what's next? What have you sort of made up your mind? We got to ask you about it. What's the future hold for you here in whatever next year may hold?
I've been thinking about it a lot. I think I got some left guys were saying, oh, you got 3 good years in you, and I'm like, oh, I don't know if I've got that. My body, I don't know if my body can feel it, but I think I got one more. I know I said I didn't want to go out like this in 2020, COVID year. It's like, I don't want to go out like this, and I want to end it right. I started my career right. I want to end it right, whether win or lose, it doesn't matter. So I'm banking on playing one more year, obviously, if it permits and somebody wants me. But there's some early interest out there. I'm praying I can stay close to home. Anaheim would be awesome, something like that. But we'll see. I know my son or Kai. I know Kai really wants me to play, so he's like, I want to go in the dugout. I want to go in the clubhouse and all that kind of stuff. So that stuff's cool. So, but if I can stay in Anaheim, that'd be great. I can live at home, family time and whatnot, and end my career, right way.
Yeah, and of course, so many catchers go on and become coaches and managers, and it sort of seems like a natural progression. You're already an extension of the dugout on the field. Is there any desire to coach once your playing career is over? Whenever that comes, whether it's after next season or 5 seasons down the line. I mean, at least you could coach your kids. We mentioned you got the College World Series title, you got the Major League World Series title. So if you're coaching, one of the boys or something, you can go after that Little League World Series title and complete the trifecta.
I might have to move to Maui for that one.
Hey, but we got the programs here.
Yeah,
that.
That's right. Coaching definitely. It's not a passion of mine. I definitely am interested in what it would be like. I think my kids being so young, I want to be a big part of their lives. So right now, after I probably won't do it. I'll probably end up being a Little League coach and going after that Little League World Series. But coach baseball, basketball, just being around the kids and being there for them. Not missing anything anymore is something I know. I said when Malia's 10, I said I think that's the time. Everybody's saying when they're 10, once they reach 10, they don't want to hang out with mom and dad anymore. So I'm like, okay, when she's 10, I gotta stop because I need to get that time with my daughter. But I think in the time maybe when they go off to college and there's an empty household, maybe we might dabble in that, but I definitely gonna stay in baseball. I know I've already talked to a few guys that they're like, oh, hey, come work for me in the front office, whatever you want to do, be a special advisor and something like that. So I'll stay in the game that way and then see where it takes me.
Yeah, any franchise would be too smart to have you on board. Kurt, we did want to get to some Q&As from the folks that are viewing this. So we did want to get some of those questions in. So I'll pull some of that up here and make sure we get some of these questions in. But Lynn Curtis sent in, she asked, we kind of talked about this with playing in front of the crowds, and then this year not playing in front of the crowds. But what is that like, playing in front of 45, 50,000 people in a stadium? And in the World Series, it's tens of millions of people tuned in. But what is that like, and how do you sort of manage the pressure that comes with having to perform under those circumstances?
It's nerve-wracking. I'll tell you, I mean, it doesn't matter how many years you got in the big leagues. You always get those butterflies. I don't care if you're Mike Trout or Anthony Rendon or, Albert Pujols. You get that anxiety, that little anxious feeling, because I think that's what drives players. That drives all the great players, is that anxiety to be good on a big stage. And I think players, they thrive on that. And it's a nervous feeling, but I think the guys that can control it and go out there and perform and use it to their advantage are the guys that are successful. And it's a tough thing to do, but it's great, man. That rush you get when you're running off, when you're on the road and you hit a home run, everybody's quiet. When you're at home and you get a big hit and they're just going nuts. I mean, there's nothing better than that when in sports. That is the ultimate satisfaction.
Mike Malahan writes in from all the way from Tokyo, I believe. He asked, did you ever consider playing in Japan?
Oh, I'd love to. I think I'd be on a special exercise program, though, because all that food in Japan I'd crush that. So maybe a coach in Japan, and then I can eat as much as I want. But, I thought about that. My wife and I talked about it. She's like, man, it'd be really cool to take the kids there for a year to Japan and you play and we can do all these sightseeing things and kids can live that, culture and learn it. It's very, interesting, but, as of now, I'm staying in the States to play MLB for now.
Without a doubt. Joyce Miyamoto wrote in, she said, for students and kids growing up who don't maybe play sports and participate in other activities, how can they sort of demonstrate leadership skills, just maybe generally speaking?
I think, some people think leadership as a person that's out there directing traffic, so to say, being vocal and and all these kind of things. But for me, it was never that. I was like I had mentioned earlier, I was more of a silent type, lead by example, where, instead of somebody saying, "Hey guys, you guys got to do your homework," it was like, I just did it, and I hope people flocked. And that was the type of leader I was. Where I played baseball is, when it's time to run sprints, I try to run sprints as hard as I could, thinking that people might follow. If you lollygag it, then people are gonna do the same thing. So I try to be the first one in, and if they see, hey, Kurt's being the first one in, let's try to pick it up and keep it up. And I think it's not always about being vocal; it's about leading by example. For me, that's the kind of guys that I think a lot of guys talk a big game, but those sometimes you talk too much, guys kind of shy away from that. But the guys that are quietly get it done, you try not to be recognized, in that aspect. And that was one of the things that I've learned from one of my coaches is you want to be out there when nobody realizes that you're there, and the attention's not on you, good or bad, and then you're doing your job and people will follow. So that's kind of what I look at it.
Yeah, no, I think that's terrific advice. Rick Ogata writes and said he's got a huge Kurt Suzuki memorabilia collection. He's got all kinds of stuff. He wanted to know if you sort of have your own personal collection of mementos or memorabilia that you've accumulated over the years.
Yeah, I got some. We're actually in the process of finishing up. We're building a house right now, and we're about a few months away. And I got an office with a memorabilia wall where, World Series jersey, World Series trophy, Johnny Bench awards, all my awards, and World Series hats and bobbleheads and all that kind of stuff, is going to go there. So it's going to be a pretty cool wall that, I'm excited for.
Yeah, I've actually got a signed Kurt Suzuki picture right here. You can't really see it with the glare, but yeah, I got my own little collection back here of Kurt memorabilia. I got a baseball bat and everything. So yeah, Rick, I can relate, no doubt about that. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun, Kurt, for sure. I know I always enjoy and relish our opportunities to catch up and whatnot. So big mahalo for me.
Right on. Thank you. Always nice.
Listen, we want to thank both of you for coming on this afternoon. I feel like we were all privy to this really intimate, lovely conversation between two really good friends. And I thank you both for that. I'm going to come back to both of you for just some closing remarks. But in the meantime, I want to thank our audience for tuning in. Also, Kurt, your parents are on this call. So if your dad wants to bring by some of his beef stew, we would. Want to let you know, tomorrow we're going to be talking with Debbie Kabibi. She's the CEO for Maui Economic Opportunity, a great nonprofit that's done so much during this COVID time. Be sure to tune into that. That's at 4:00. Then next Monday, we're talking with Mike Rembis. He's the CEO of Maui Health Systems, and his Chief Strategy Officer, Jim Deagle, talking about everything the hospital has gone through this year. And then on Tuesday, the 15th, we'll be talking to the former managing editor of the Maui News, Mr. Lee Imada. So tune in for that. And our final afternoon with the author for this year is going to be on Saturday, December 19th at 1:30. It's going to be Pamela Rotner Sakamoto talking about the backstory behind her book, Midnight in Broad Daylight. You won't want to miss that. For all of these events, they're on our website at nvmc.org. Just go there, click what's new, and all the options will pop up. This is being recorded, this webinar today, so it's going to be available on our Nisei Veterans Memorial Center YouTube channel. So if you want to watch it again, share it with your friends. You can go there in about a week and a half, and it should be up. So, gentlemen, I'm going to turn it back to you. Some closing remarks. Again, thank you so much for doing this today. We've all had a blast.
Oh, thank you. And yeah, Kurt, I'll give you the floor. I think what we've been able to experience this year is given us a lot to be thankful for, without a doubt, as we sort of close the door on 2020. But hopefully you'll get to be back home soon. We all miss you back here, and hopefully we'll see you someplace still playing next season.
Yes, thank you. Thanks everybody for having me. Jordan, always good talking story. You, Kanoa, it's always good talking story with you guys. DJ, thank you for having me. I appreciate everybody's support. I think that, I can never say it enough, all the support that I get, from Hawaii, from Maui, from, wherever in this state, people that I never met before that support me. It's very humbling. I'm very blessed to be where I am today. And even if, I never met somebody, and whenever I get support, I feel it, and it really helps me, and it drives me to be good to represent the state of Hawaii the best I can. And this is very important to me. The state is like family. Like we said, Hawaii is very family oriented. I'm very proud of my heritage to be one of the very few Asian Americans that are playing in Major League Baseball. You can count them on one hand how many are in Major League Baseball, and I'm very proud of that. And I'm proud to be able to represent that, and to hopefully be a good role model for a lot of kids, around the state and around the country.
Yeah, without a doubt. Working in sports media in Hawaii is always a treat, because it's so easy to cover guys like Kurt, right, who do so much, not just on a professional level, but do so much for the community as well. So he makes our job easy. It's easy to cover and root for guys like Kurt, and always have. And looking forward to what the future holds.
Yeah, I think I got a little bit left in me. I'm ready.
Oh, you do.
I'm
We
staying
know.
in shape. I'm staying in shape, but whatever I got left in the tank, you're gonna get it. So it'll be good.
Well, we look forward to the upcoming season. Again, thank you for sharing. You're such a role model. You do so much for our community, and you gave us so many great takeaways today to think about. So, Kurt Suzuki, thank you so much. Jordan Helle, thank you for doing a fantastic interview. Mahalo to everybody out there. Until we meet again, ahui ho, be well, stay safe, and mahalo.
Thank you.
Thank you.